Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Dark Powerrr, where we talk about everything that happens on AEW Dark Elevation and Powerrr. There was a lot to sort of get to. I mean, in a sense, because this week's episode of Powerrr was a power surge, so there wasn't really a lot of storyline movement, but there was some kind of hilarity. If you're into that kind of comedy stuff, that we will talk about in a little bit, but on Dark, we had some really, really good matchups. So, guys, let's get to it right after the jump. All right, guys. Like I said, there's a lot to get to, but before we do, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, for liking, commenting, sharing, all of that good stuff. And if you are one of our Patreon subscribers, thank you as well. If you are not a Patreon subscriber, $3 is the entry-level cost tier to get in and get all of the access to all of the content that we put on Patreon. Thank you guys once again for all of the support that you guys give the True Heel Heat family. We appreciate it all the time. So let's talk about it. There was a Power Surge episode that is hosted by the Fixers. It's kind of supposed to be a deep dive into who the Fixers are and what they're all about. It's not really that much of that. It's more just a couple quick Fixer promos, but they are kind of funny. But before we get into any of that, we got to talk about Dark. And before we talk about that, I just want to mention that the main event of Elevation, I think it's a six-man tag match, if I remember right, that match was really good and a standout on an otherwise kind of just regular-ass Elevation card. But let's talk about Dark. Specifically, there were two matches that stood out, and it was kind of cool because we're going to talk about the match of the night for Dark Powerrr on the very first match. And that, of course, is when Wheeler Yuta went up against Pentagon. This was a pretty cool match. Both of these guys are kind of well-versed in submission wrestling, and you really see that throughout the course of this match. They are going back and forth in the beginning with submission holds in a match that's going to go about 10 minutes long, as you can see right here. Oh, my man. Oh, goodness. These submission moves that they put on each other was really incredible. And Wheeler Yuta is somebody who doesn't get a lot of the props that he deserves for how well he is able to be smooth in the ring. And that's something that I got to say, if he continues to show out and improve on AEW, it's going to take a little while because he's kind of been typecast as the quote-unquote jobber of the Best Friends faction. But man, he has taken the opportunity of being the quasi replacement for Trent Beretta when Trent was injured, and he has really run with it. And he is going to be somebody who I think we can see develop in front of us. I don't know if he signed a contract with AEW or if he's still kind of on a freelancer kind of situation, but I really hope he has found a home there because he can be one of their kind of really key submission move guys for the future. It's a really promising crop of talent. It's him, it's Lee Moriarty, it's Daniel Garcia, it's even Jungle Boy with that snare trap submission move. But here he's in the ring with a ring general, a consummate professional, if you will, and Pentagon shows that he can take anybody and have a phenomenal match. This was a really good one. The crowd was really hot and behind it. So this was match of the night immediately. It's all downhill from here, folks. But the other match that stood out was definitely the main event when the Factory's Nick Camarada took on Jungle Boy. This was a nice match. We have Solo and QT Marshall ringside trying to help Camarada, as you saw in the thumbnail. The clip, Luchasaurus is with Jungle Boy. We see that QT tries to inject himself into the match multiple times, one time with success against Jungle Boy being able to distract him. But I think we talked about this maybe last week or maybe the week before. the Factory is a faction that is well suited for Dark and Elevation. They can really be the foundation or like just pillars of AEW Dark and Elevation. And matches like this really showcase why. Because they're able to get heat with the crowd and they're able to transfer that heat to the face when the face gets the win. And that's really the nature of the game, right? That's really what wrestling is about. You want one person, you want the crowd to be invested in one person getting their ass beat, and then you want to see the other person beat their ass. It's basic, it's very simple storytelling at its ultimate core. Good, we want to see good guys win, and we want to see bad guys lose. Pretty easy. Now, Nick Camarda is somebody who, when he first came in, I thought was going to get a solid kind of low-level push, and that doesn't seem to have happened. It seems to have kind of fizzled out being with the Factory, but that's also because the Factory is sort of treated like jobbers. They're sort of treated like a joke. And I think that one thing that is a testament to AEW's ability and skill is their ability to heat people up and to really turn them into stars kind of not overnight, but in quick fashion. And you can just see that Nick Camarda is somebody who has the skills. He doesn't have the greatest promo yet, of course, because he doesn't really get to talk that much. QT does most of the talking. And maybe that's something that they're covering up for, a weakness. But having a mouthpiece is not the end of the world. It's worked for plenty of people over the years. I think maybe this time next year, we'll be talking about Camarada in a different way. I think maybe towards the end of the year, maybe somewhere towards, say, July, September, they could really start to get the push behind him and really start to move him up rankings, move him up so that he seems more like a big deal, seems more important. Have him challenge for the TNT title. Nothing wrong with that. Build him up so that when he is on Dark, when he is on Elevation, he's able to help out the people that you're trying to get over. That's something that's important. You're always trying to make sure that people are getting over. And that's kind of the point of this week's episode of Power Surge. It's being hosted by the Fixers. They are going to have their interesting brand of humor, which consists of weird-ass stories about not giving a homeless person change, about Legursky's incredible ability to eat food, just the kind of things that you expect from dumb meathead heels. Because for lack of better terms, that's really what they are. That's how they are portrayed. It's not a knock against them. That's just the characters that they portray. And they know that. And they're leaning into that. And it's kind of funny to see just the stories that Bradley's telling and kind of the dumb self-awareness about being dumb that they have, if that makes sense. If you get a chance to watch it, you'll understand what I mean. But the matches that they had on NWA, we had some good ones. The first one, we see Rodney Mack in action. And the reason behind this, I can only anticipate, is to get him in the ring with Jack Stane and really show us here what Rodney Mack is all about and showcase the damage that he can do to an opponent. Our middle match is probably, actually, no, not probably, it is the best match on NWA Powerrr week. And it actually did sort of challenge Pentagon and Utah for match of the night. And that's when Smiley Kylie Rae takes on Maddie Rankowski. We've seen Maddie here on NWA. We've seen her on Dark. We've seen her on Elevation. She is a talent who is slowly being developed throughout the different federations or promotions that she's with. She's with Mission Pro Wrestling as well, Thunder Rosa's promotion that True Heels is a partner with. She is somebody who is slowly making a name for herself, and matches like this are great exhibitions of her talent. And here she's in the ring with Kylie Rae, and my goodness, as a babyface, Kylie is somebody who a heel can just lay into and demolish and destroy. And every single time she gets hit, the crowd just gets more behind her. And I mean, you guys know, if you've been watching Dark Powerrr for a while, self-professed Kylie Rae Mark, met her a couple times, freelance wrestling champion, awesome talent. And she picks up the win here, as she should. But this was a really, really good match. And this match, they gave them time, which was something that I really appreciated. Sometimes Power Surge episodes can be low-key really, really good. And this one kind of was in a certain way. But if the Fixers are going to be the hosts of this week's Power Surge, there's got to be a reason why. And you got to showcase them, and that's got to be, of course, in the main event. And here they are in that main event, wrecking people, just wrecking their opponents. It doesn't even matter who their opponents are. Legursky and Bradley work as a well-oiled tag team to demolish their opponent. And I got to say that them as foils for the OGK in NWA are going to be really, really cool. I had to make sure I didn't lose it there with all the acronyms. But the Fixers are going to be a fixture, see what I did there, for the NWA for a little while to come. Obviously, we know that the OGK are probably going to get the better of them. But then again, this is the NWA. You never know what's going to happen. Billy Corgan sometimes makes some kind of head-scratching booking decisions. But overall, this was a pretty good episode of Power Surge. Like I said, a really, really nice match between Utah and Pentagon. And I don't have too many complaints. This week. But maybe that's because they didn't really do anything storyline-wise. The only thing storyline that sort of moved forward is Rodney Mack getting in the ring because of what Jack Stane said about his wife, Jazz. He punched Jack Stane out, knocked him out. And, of course, now we're getting him into – we're knocking off some of that ring rust. We're getting him back in front of a television camera because we kind of know that there's going to be a showdown with Jack Stane. And if there's one thing that Billy Corgan absolutely loves, it's one giant guy against another giant guy. Trevor Murdoch is the world champion, guys. So lots to look forward to when it comes to seeing what Rodney Mack is going to do, what the storyline is going to be with Jack Stane. Remember, there's also Crimson / Anthony Mayweather on the horizon for Jack Stane. I said this last week, Jack Stane just picking fights with everybody. It's trying to see who he can beat up in the process. But who he does beat up in the process is something that we'll have to talk about on another episode of Dark Powerrr. So, guys, thank you once again for tuning in. Thank you for hitting that like button, commenting, sharing, subscribing if you have not already. And, as always, consider joining our Patreon channel. So, until next time, guys, remember,